In a remote corner of Tanzania, there lives a tribe that time forgot, the Hadza, some of Africa's last known hunter-gatherers. And they live today exactly as they have for thousands of years. Writer and artist James Stevenson lives in New York City. For the last 7 years, this young American has spent each winter with the Hadza and immersed himself in their world. This year, he and the Hadza are embarking on a new adventure of discovery. 26 days around Lake Eyasi, across some of Tanzania's harshest terrain.
We just heard bats singing in the morning. Bats singing in the morning means trouble is coming. Let's go.
I was sure that they were banditos. I became part of the Hadzabe. We hunted, we drank, we ate and danced, we slept by the fire, we painted. We were hungry, we were tired, we were thirsty, we found women. I was intoxicated by them.
The Hadza are a tribe of nomadic hunter-gatherers who live in a remote region of Tanzania, East Africa. They still make fire with sticks, carve their own weapons, and hunt with poison-tipped arrows. They have lived in the region since the dawn of human consciousness and are amongst the last true hunter-gatherers on the African continent. James Stevenson first encountered the tribe on a working holiday to Africa 7 years ago, a meeting that changed his life. He was totally enchanted by them and couldn't stay away. Through the New York summer, he works as a landscape gardener in the city. Each winter, year after year, he returns to Tanzania to live with the Hadza.
I would just go off by myself with some tea and coffee and just go live how they lived. Go out with them when they were hunting, I would sleep with them in their camps. So I got to know them as friends. But I was writing poetry, I was painting with them, and I was just going into the land, searching for sort of my own truth.
7 years later, the bonds are deep. They're his inspiration, and also his family.
Well, I wrote a book on them, and I thought when I finished the book, that was it. But every year, Africa keeps pulling me back.
The journey began in Dar es Salaam on the Tanzanian coast. They head north 600 kilometers to Mangola and Hadzaland.
We're now arriving in Mangola, the outskirts of Mangola. The Hadzabe live 10-15 kilometers away from here, 5 kilometers in the bush. So I'm excited to see them. Salama bwana. Sawa, nafaa kukuona kweli. Unaona kama kubwa.
Ndio,
Sawa, sawa.
Hakuna shida.
This is my friend Yanza. He's one of the best hunters in the area.
A brother returns, and the celebrations begin.
Culturally, in a way, we're from two radically different arenas, but I believe one can get into a state of mind where if you're free from your culture and you just understand the human spirit, you can embrace any type of people, because really all people are the same.
Every year, James goes off into the bush with the men, often for 2 or 3 months at a time. But this time, the journey's a little different.
Okay, this is Lake Eyasi right here, okay?
Eyasi is a salt lake in the eastern shadow of the Rift Valley in the heart of Hadzaland. This year, James and a group of Hadza friends are going to go around it on foot, a journey of almost 300 kilometers.
I've been going around Lake Eyasi here and there, but I've never actually, by foot, gone all the way around it and focused just on Lake Eyasi. I just want to see the lake, experience it.
Their plan is to walk 10 to 15 kilometers a day following the shoreline until they reach the Sibiti River at the southernmost tip of the lake. The western, or far side of the lake, is unknown territory. The Hadza have made short hunting trips into the area, but have never walked its entire length. It's harsh, hostile and barren, and water's often scarce. Ironically, Eyasi itself is a salt lake and its water undrinkable. They'll have to rely on whatever groundwater they can find along the way. It's the end of summer, and although the rainy season will start soon, temperatures are up in the high 80s, and it's going to be a long, hot journey. But neither James nor the Hadza can resist the challenge.
Our real difficulty is time. Time is our difficulty.
in food and supplies. We have a certain amount of supplies for a certain amount of days. And if it rains, we're in big trouble. Our estimation is it's anywhere between 10 days and 20 days just to get past that side of the lake. I'm hoping we can get past that side of the lake in 10 days and then make our way back in 10 days. But we're gonna have to walk very far and very hard.
So it's morning, we have our bows around and the arrows, lots of bows and arrows.
And a mountain of
And
provisions.
this is because we are shooting a movie, shooting a documentary film, so we have many elements that we have to watch out, that if I was alone with the huts, I would never have to worry about. So this is a new experience for me to be dealing with all this stuff. But in a way, this is part of the adventure.
Saitoti is one of James's closest friends.
Saitoti usually cuts my hair when we're in the bush. He says the hair of my tribe is very soft.
In the world of the Hadza, tribe is important.
The Hadza don't like the Swahili very much, the people of the town, because the people of the town call the Hadzabe baboons. The people of the town want to be like Westerners, so their tradition becomes materialism. So a culture like the Hadza, who have no need for material goods and don't care, and live in the wilderness, they think the Hadza are wild animals.
I'm
Cutting all his hair off. So now I don't have to worry about my hair for a while. This is Saitoti's home right here. He says when there's no rain, they sleep outside, but this hut's prepared for the rain, so when the rain comes, he takes the mother and his family inside the hut. He says he's happy that his friend James has come today. He's very happy. Saitoti's quite a character. I mean, he's Saitoti, and in a way he's the showman of the group, but all his brothers are very strong and full of energy, Salebogo, and his father was a famous hunter. This is Saitoti's wife. I've known her for a long time. Saitoti and her have gone through lots of problems, lots of fights, and but she just had a new baby, so that's great.
That the men are leaving their families to journey with James is nothing unusual. As nomadic people, the Hadza are constantly on the move in search of food and water, and the men frequently go off on hunting trips on their own. And although the men hunt, it's in fact the women who provide most of the food, in the form of roots, berries, and tubers. After 2 days of preparation, they're finally ready to leave.
So we have about 20 people, we have 4 donkeys, we have water. We're hoping everything is going to be okay.
Carrying packs is a new experience for the Hadza, but there's no choice. You can't get a vehicle onto the western side of the lake, so the group has to carry 2 weeks' worth of supplies. And because they don't know what they're going to find in the area, it also means carrying water. But James has hired 4 donkeys to do that. To guide them, they have nothing but a rudimentary surveyor's map and the Hadza's instinctive knowledge of the land. They're on their own.
It feels good. We're free from the towns. We're free from the drinking. We're free from the Shitani Kubo. We're now in the ancient land. It's the cradle of mankind. Not far over that escarpment there is Laetoli Valley, where Miriliki discovered the hominid footprints. Old Divide Gorge. This place holds everything, I think. Physically, it's going to challenge us all. It's going to suck all our strength. The hot sun, thirst, insects, fear, fatigue. We're going to face all these things. We've just come from Dungumua, about 5 kilometers, and we're going to the oasis of Nundulugu. And it's absolutely stunningly beautiful here.
Oh, it feels so good, you can't believe.
Nice cool oasis water, straight from the mountains. It really refreshes you after the long walk in the salty dust.
They'll remember this water in the weeks to come.
I find myself experiencing so much on this journey. Every day I'm learning something really interesting that I didn't know about before. So it's a constant journey. And then just the lake itself and the land itself is really speaking to me.
Stryacanthus, desert rose, baobab, yellow fever tree. If you dream snake, you're born child. Dream elephant, kill buffalo. If you shoot leopard and it does not die, it will come back to kill you. It will smell the arrow and know that you shot it. It is dangerous to hunt leopard in the night.
Day 4. Salt-baked earth crunches underfoot and the sun beats down relentlessly. By midday, water bottles are empty and energy levels at rock bottom.
We're resting underneath this tree here in the shade, this dead tree, and we're trying to figure out where we're going to go. This morning they thought we could make it to Lima, Mungu, the mountain of God. But it seems like it's another six or 7 hours to walk. So we're thinking maybe we'll just camp in this oasis here. They say there's an oasis here.
Oasis, or chim chim, is a very loose term for a water hole. This time round it's nothing but a muddy pit in the ground, and the water's salty and undrinkable. The donkeys are still carrying supplies, but there's only enough for tonight. They have to find water tomorrow. Day 5. Luck hasn't deserted them entirely. The men went hunting last night and came back with an eagle, an owl, and a wild cat. Their water supplies are down to almost nothing, but their stomachs at least are full, and they set off in the cool of early morning in good spirits. Much to their relief, they found water mid-morning, but the relief was short-lived. This is lion country, but they suddenly found themselves surrounded by cattle. These are Tatoga herdsmen from the north, who in recent years have been forced down into these lower regions by drought. And it spells disaster for the Hadza. Not only do the Tatoga cattle here scare off the wild game, but they also foul precious water sources with urine. James and his friends dug a hole in the sand nearby and found clean water, but not a lot of it.
What's
So we're gonna have to camp right here because this is the only water place. The next water place is 30 kilometers up.
And there's no way they can make that distance today. So in the heavy afternoon heat, James and the guys settle down to draw. Something they've been doing together for years.
Each person was original in the way they painted. And for example, if you take in other places in Tanzania where the people have gone to school, you tell them to paint, they don't know what to do. The Hadza just take a crayon and
But that night, James and Adam went out hunting and got hopelessly lost, not returning till early next morning.
He said that we spotted the bopuaco, the swallow, and it started running. He went after it, he came this way, he came that way. Then he saw it, and it came right near him, and he grabbed it with his hands, and he cut its throat.
They're going to cut up the swallow now, and they'll probably dry out the skin because the swallow skin, the bopoaco skin, is nice to sleep on. And they're very happy because meat gives them a charge. It almost gives them a high. And I'm just glad everything worked out. I was kind of nervous out there, but it was so beautiful. They said they eat the insides of all bones. All animals they eat the insides of the bone because it makes you really strong to eat the marrow of the bone. They'll hunt every day, or they'll take turns hunting every day until they get some food, and they share it with everyone. There's no, the Hadzabe share everything.
Tatoga tribesmen herding their cattle through the area stop in for a visit.
We're gonna try to buy some arrows from them because we've lost a lot of our arrows in the bush the last 3 nights hunting. He says he can't give us any more than 3 arrows because he says for this, the arrows are our guns. They're our bundukis. We can't do without our guns. We need our guns to protect ourselves. See, what's happening is that there's cattle raids. For example, the Maasai will come to a Datoga, will sneak up on a Datoga boma. A boma is a Datoga home. And we'll sneak up and raid the home and steal the cattle. And then the Datoga will follow them and fight them, or the Datoga will do the same to them. And you see a lot of these guys, like this guy here. He's been shot twice by 2 Mashalia Maasai. 2 arrows right here, right here.
Day 8.
I think you have reservoirs of energy that come up. You kind of pass through stages, and you get really tired, but if you just keep going, you pass that tiredness and you go into a new stage. And then eventually you get to a point where you just overcome your tiredness. And it's kind of a real sort of lucid feeling. And it's almost a yoga in itself, a discipline to overcome your body's weaknesses, I guess.
It's a blistering hot day. Once again, water bottles are empty and they decide to wait for the cool of afternoon before moving on.
Sabina is like a stone, but he's also a very complex character. He has many different personalities, Sabina. He can be a little kid and get really excited, but then he can be this fierce, lone hunter. But he, again, Sabina is always there.
They wake to the sound of cowbells and the realization that there's water nearby. Again, it's been contaminated by cattle. But this time around, they're too thirsty to care. And then the donkeys arrive, with bad news. They've jettisoned the water they were carrying because the animals were battling with the load in the soft sand. Worse still, according to local tribesmen, the next water hole is 8 hours away. And will it be drinkable? They don't know. What they do know is that once they reach the Sibiti River here in the south, there'll be plenty of fresh water. But exactly how far they are from the river, they're not too sure. They've been walking now for 8 days. So by rights, they should be somewhere around here, 3 or 4 days away. But at this stage, it's anyone's guess. They decide to camp here and try and reach the next water hole tomorrow.
To pass the time in the afternoon, we're going to have a bow shooting contest. We're using cardboard so it doesn't destroy their arrows. So this is the line and the arrow contest begins.
One by one, the men step forward to display a skill as ancient as the hills around them.
Bali. Lukala is one of the best hunters.
Mimi kupiga nyama, mimi shabaha kali sana.
I'm having trouble translating this, but he says he's a good hunter because he likes eating meat.
Zamani, maisha ya zamani, mimi naona.
He says he loved the life of a long time ago, but he says now life is very different. Life is changing, it's changing. He says life for the Hadza in the future is going to be finished.
Their small fires and gentle voices were once invisible to the outside world. They roamed, free and independent, as much a part of the ecosystem here as a herd of buffalo. Not so today. Agriculture and a government hell-bent on development have changed all that. Vast tracts of their ancestral land have been set aside as game parks for tourists. The cattle of strangers scare off the wild game they depend on, and the world is shrinking around them. The time of the hunter is past. Normally the men hunt by the light of the moon, but tonight, for the sake of the camera, they're using a torch. One of the oldest tribes left on Earth is on the hunt. This isn't sport, it's survival. It's food, clothing, and the stuff of their dreams.
Hamisi has just killed a small dik-dik animal. We've been hunting all night. This is kind of a reward. Here they're gonna skin the animal. It's a female. They've already cut its head off to eat it. The head's a sort of delicacy. They'll eat everything. It'll be gone in about 20 minutes. They'll eat everything.
Day 9. With their water supplies down to rock bottom, they make an early start.
And it was so beautiful. We saw wildebeest running the distance and zebra, and we saw lots of giraffe dung, and the trees were old, and it was barren and a rough landscape, and the sun was so hot.
Dark clouds are gathering on their heels, which doesn't help their anxiety. But it's thirst that's uppermost in their minds.
There's different levels of thirst. I mean, there's the uncomfortable thirst. The initial thirst is pretty bad because you're used to having a lot of water, and it feels painful, really, in a way. You don't like the feeling. You get sort of panicky. But then the next level of thirst is something a little more serious, where you really start getting worried, and it doesn't go away.
They've walked hard and fast all day, but there's no sign of the promised water hole. They're in dire straits and need water badly. So much so that they even considered drinking the salty waters of Eyasi. But they needn't have worried. Within the hour, the storm that had been on their heels for days finally caught up with them, and there was nowhere to hide.
A real storm in the bush it's like a hurricane. It's just torrential, violent rainfall pouring down. Boom, 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 boom. And thunder exploding above. And you really you feel the reality of nature.
They were soaked to the bone in minutes, but no one cared. The temperature plummeted instantly, but despite the cold, their spirits soared. Day 10.
So possibly the big rains have arrived, and it could cause some problems, because one is the mud. Mud's a definite issue. That if it's really muddy, we're gonna have to walk in our bare feet, and our feet will get swollen and infected. And if you're cold and wet, hypothermia can possibly set in. Although the heat was bad, now we have the rain, and now we're not sure if we're going to be able to make the safari.
They take a shortcut inland to try and keep ahead of the rains.
Kwa sababu tunapenda hii mbuyu, manake ana chakula.
He says life is good when you stay next to a baobab tree. He says because you can eat the fruit in the baobab tree, the fruit tastes sweet. He says there's shade under the baobab tree, you can build your camp near the baobab tree, you can find good water in or around the baobab tree. He said, Maisha Zuri, life is good near the baobab tree. Adam is a gentle giant. He's an incredible hunter and he has this fierce strength. But he's very gentle and he hasn't been affected by the towns. He's 100% Hadzabe.
But outsiders are moving into Hadza land, and the world is changing before his eyes.
Wengine anachoma hata majani.
He says these people that are coming in, they're cutting down the trees, they're burning the grasses. There are no animals now because they've scared the animals away. He thinks in the future, because of so many Mbulu coming in and other people coming in, that the Hadza will go to the towns and will stop the life of the Hadza, and the children won't know how to be Hadza anymore.
They're being forced to surrender their lands, their lifestyle and their culture to the pressures of modern society. And within a few generations, these ancient people and their knowledge will vanish from the face of the earth.
We found a beautiful camp here, and we discovered an unexpected chim-chim water source. So that means we can drink a lot of water and bathe and make some good food. After the hard rains last night, today's been a blessing. The rains stopped and haven't continued. Otherwise, we would have been stuck in our camp. And hopefully tomorrow we will arrive at the Sibiti River, our halfway point, around 2 p.m.
Day 11, and it didn't start well. This morning, the cameraman was stung by a scorpion.
And the last 10 hours has been something else. Last night we went out hunting and we heard a car in the middle of nowhere here. So we rushed back to camp, and soon the car came near the camp.
I'm not sure if they're poachers or if they're thieves. So
Ronald, have you got a torch there?
I was sure that they were banditos, which are thieves. So then the car came back around and went over to the right of us, and we heard boom! Then we had decided it's best we start running, and because with the bullets, if they're shooting that close to us, we're right in the firelight. They're either trying to get us or they're hunting an animal.
Let's go back. You guys, wait. If they're thieves, let's go back. They'll steal everything from the camp.
And then we saw that they were hunting an animal, and the animal was coming closer and closer to our camp.
I think it's okay.
And then they finally went over in another direction, boom, again, and they shot the animal. And it just was sort of a demonstration of that the bush in all parts now is being infected by the greed of hunters. The sounds of cars, the sounds of guns. I mean, it's getting worse and worse.
Adam was particularly agitated.
Come on, ancestors, help us out. Make sure that we have a good safari from here on in.
One of the old men just pulled me aside. He said, "Did you forget what we were talking about last night? Did you forget what we were talking about last night? We gotta go, man. There's dangerous here. There's lots of thieves, lots of people being killed here. There's no law here. We just heard bats singing in the morning. Bats singing in the morning means trouble is coming. Let's go."
The men are worried that the poachers, having seen foreigners amongst the group last night, would come back looking for them today, to rob them. They set off fast, taking a route through the densest bush they could find. By midday, the group was worn out and dispirited, but Lukala knew exactly what was needed. Honey, and he found it in minutes.
Lukala, I often feel like Lukala is almost he's become totally one with nature. I really enjoy watching him, especially when he goes out hunting. He seems so balanced, and he reminds me of an ascetic. He epitomizes the harmony that a lot of the hunters have with nature. Yeah, some fresh honey here.
Kanawa.
Kanawa.
It was like manna from heaven, and exactly the boost their energy needed. After meat, honey's the Hadza's most favorite food.
So it makes you strong. It's very good. The side. We have cut through the bush, and now we're back on the Sea of Balangita, Lake Eyasi. If we find water at the Chim Chim here, we'll just rest the night. It's safe from the road. I don't think there are any bandits around. So we'll rest the night at the Chim Chim and head off to the Sibiti tomorrow.
Some local Tatoga had dug and found water in a dry riverbed nearby and were good enough to share it with them. But there is precious little of it. And on top of it all, food rations are running low. The plan is that the support vehicles have driven down from Mangola and are hopefully waiting for them here at the mouth of the Sibiti River with provisions. But tonight, on their last few handfuls of beans and rice, they're going to bed hungry and thirsty. Day 12. It had poured with rain during the night, and it didn't bode well for the journey ahead. And so the day from hell began, a sea of sticky mud spread from horizon to horizon. Salty mud that oozes into the shoes and burns the feet. They slide, slither and slip, hour after tedious hour, and there's no sign of the Sibiti River. The donkey team's fallen far behind them, but at this stage they're just too tired to notice or care. A flock of marabou storks mocks their aching feet with their effortless flight, and there's still no sign of the Sibiti River.
It's 4:30 now, and we've lost our guys that have the water, the food, everything. So I'm just hoping that we can meet up with them at the Sibiti. Otherwise, we'll be sleeping out in the bush without any water or food.
They take another detour inland to try and avoid the mud, but matters only get worse. The mud gets deeper, it rips off their shoes and makes their feet bleed. They're very thirsty, hungry and exhausted, and it takes every last ounce of energy to simply put one foot in front of the other. Worst of all, having left the shoreline, they now have no idea where they are. The Sibiti at last.
Well, we've arrived at the Sibiti River, but I think about 10 kilometers up from Balangita, Lake Eyasi. And that means we have still 10 more kilometers to walk. We've been walking about 9-10 hours today, and we're all exhausted and crabby. And now we're trying to figure out if there are crocodiles in the river.
Their detour inland to try and escape the mud has thrown them way off course. They think they're somewhere here, but they're really not sure. And how far they are from Lake Eyasi is, again, anyone's guess. They slept on the banks of the river and woke to a chilly dawn.
Well, we had a cold night. A really cold night. We were worried about mosquitoes, but it was too cold for mosquitoes. So we all sort of snuggled together and kept warm and hoped that there'd be no rain. 'Cause if there was rain... Now we're going to follow the Sibiti to back to Balangita, Lake Eyasi, where the river runs into the lake, and hopefully meet up with the rest of our group so we can have something to eat. We haven't had anything to eat now for 24 hours.
6 hours later, they're still walking. Then suddenly, through the shimmering heat, the camp appeared. The vehicles, support crew, food and water. After the nightmare of the last 36 hours, it's a moment no one will forget.
How are you? Yeah.
Hey.
You made it. Welcome, Bana. Karibu.
Food, as always, is priority number one. The support crew has restocked them with beans and rice, but no tobacco. So James and Sabena head for Matala, a small town nearby, and the only one in the region.
This is sort of the Wild West town, probably what America used to look like 100 years ago. You have various tribes here. You have small-time businessmen. Everyone has these small little stores. A lot of people pass through from the bush. The Toga and Maasai warriors come with their spears. Hadzabe come out of the bush with their bow and arrows. Hunters come with their guns. You have to be careful in a place like this, but also you never know what's going to happen. It's kind of exciting to spend a night in a small town like Mantala.
After the dust and bustle of the market, they take refuge in the cool darkness of a local bar.
Some people are possibly purists and want the hunter-gatherers just to stay in their place, but now it's too late. I mean, they are coming into the towns and so forth. So I've kind of made it my effort to teach them how to use money and buy the things they need if they need them. And these guys are my buddies. I love them.
I would say that Sabina is my closest friend here. He and I, there's this silent bond that we have. He talks very simple, and he's just a really groovy guy. I'm his little brother because he's the big man of the bush. And Sabina has taught me a lot. He's taught me how to track animals, how to survive in the bush. But he's also taught me about friendship. He's taught me about life.
Wewe unataka nini kwa mtoto wako baadaye?
Mimi mtoto wangu baadaye maisha yake ni kukaa porini.
He just wants his children in the future to be able to stay in the bush and live the way he has lived his life. Because a lot of Hadza, they've told me that when their children go to school, they forget how to eat the food of the bush, and they stay in school for maybe 6 years, and then they come out, they just know a little bit of Swahili, they don't know how to hunt, they don't know the food in the bush, and they don't necessarily want to, sometimes they don't want to go back to the bush, so then they just kind of float around the towns, become thieves, and become prostitutes. School's not good for everyone.
Day 14.
We're headed up into the hills near Sanola, into Mogoyamono, Sponga, Gilgwa, and we'll eventually head into the Mongola area. And some of my good friends, they have their fathers, their sisters, and their families are located in these various Hadza camps. So we should have a warm welcome from them.
Once again, they take leave of the support crew, and the second leg of the journey begins. A 10-day walk back to Mangola. It's altogether gentler on this side of the lake, and they head inland away from the shore. The first thing they notice is how open and green it is, and then they see the cattle.
Not only are these people pastureless with hundreds of cattle, they're also agriculturalists, a lot of them, they're Mbulu. And you can see how they decided that this is my land now, I'm going to make a big fence of thorn trees. So they cut 200-300 trees down, make a big fence, and start farming the land.
These are Mbulu farmers who've recently moved into the area from the south.
Unato pesa ya shamba hapa pan.
Yeah, they didn't give any money for it, they just came and made a farm.
Kwa ujumla ni wote na zamani wa Hadzabe wanaishi katika maeneo haya ya porini.
He says that a long time ago this country was Hadzabe and Watatoga country, Mangati country. And he says now the Mbulu are coming into the country.
Change is inevitable, but the Hadza want no part of it.
He says that the blah blah of farming we don't know about, we don't want it. He says if there's no animals left, we'll eat the berries, we'll eat the roots, and we'll eat the fruit of the baobab tree. But we're not going to farm.
Day 16.
This is a kapchi called Majimoto, hot water, and we've come here to find some poison. The poison is made from the sap of a desert rose tree, which is this tree right before us.
The poison's a heart stimulant, consumed safely in meat, but fatal when received through the bloodstream. It'll kill an elephant in a couple of hours, a buffalo in 5 minutes, and a man in under 1.
If someone does get cut, which happens sometimes, for example, the other night we were hunting, I cut myself by mistake with a poison arrow, and Hamisi peed all over the wound, and that breaks down the poison and you'll survive. I was a little bit nervous. First time.
They finished boiling up the poison later. It turns to a thick black resin, and Adam and Satoti wasted no time in preparing their arrows. Arrow making is a major preoccupation, but then again, so is hunting.
The story is that there were 3 guys and there were many elephants around the fire. And then they danced deep into the night. And one guy said, I'm getting tired. I'm tired. And they said, well, there's an elephant out there. You shouldn't get tired. And he said, well, I'm getting tired. They said, well, go hide in that tree. So the guy ran and hid inside the tree and went way up to the top of the tree. And then the elephants came and said, why is there only 2 guys dancing? Where's the 3rd guy? And the 2 guys were dancing. They said, the 3rd guy's tired. He went to hide in the tree. And the elephant followed the 3rd guy to the tree, took him out of the tree and put him back to the fire and started, dance, Bwana, dance!
Day 18. Before moving on, they paid their respects to a hunting legend, Mzee Itsa, who with nothing but a bow and arrow, single-handedly killed 6 lions in his lifetime.
And the 6th lion that he killed, he was with his young kid, and the 6th Simba came and ate his young kid, his young child, and then came after him. So the 6th Simba that he killed also killed his kid before he killed him. I asked the old man how he got the scar in his chest. And the old man was walking in the bush, and a rhinoceros came charging out at him. And he had to jump up a tree, and the tree went through his chest. The tree went through his chest when he jumped in the tree and stuck out his shoulder. And then the other Hadza pulled the branch out of his chest, and he almost died, but the Hadza had medicine and he survived. He says a long time ago he would see the rhino. He says now there's no rhino.
So we're now headed to Lokala's home.
I first met Lokala around 5 years ago, and I was with 2 hunters, and I arrived at his camp. And I just remember how gentle he was.
Aside from their bows and arrows, a gourd or 2, a grass mat, and perhaps an iron pot, the Hadza own nothing and share everything. Here today, gone tomorrow. Possessions are meaningless. All they ask is to be left alone, to live their lives in dignity. For these gentle people who live from day to day, past and future are irrelevant. They simply live in the moment, a precious gift that we in the West have long since lost.
We live in man's energy, in man's world, in man's society. They live in wilderness, in God's world, in the realm of the natural order. And they live in harmony in that order. So if their freedom is gone, I think we're all going to suffer. I think any beauty in the world is hope.
A passing herd of Tatoga goats provides a sharp reminder of just how fragile that natural order is.
He
says that if if the Swahili or the Wadatoga came and just stayed in certain places and didn't overpower the bush, he would have no problem with them staying in the Hadza land. But he said they can't live together. They have too much greed. But even my influence is bad. I don't know. I'm confused. Maybe my love for them is a positive thing. I hope it would be that. But maybe my influence just from being from another culture that's such a consumer culture that's so out of whack, maybe I throw them out of whack. I don't know. He says that I've always come back every year. He likes me as a friend. He says I sleep out in the rain with him. I eat the vegetables. I walk strong in the bush. He says I'm welcome.
Day 21. They are now in the hills of Sponga, deep in Hadza country.
Mama, nini? This is the Mwaikwa. This is a Mwaikwa root. There's lots of water in it. It's very tasty. It tastes like a turnip or an asparagus. You can see all the little kids going, Zeniko, Zeniko, Mwaikwa. And they're saying, give me some root, give me some root. They're all gathered around because it's very tasty. It has a bit of sugar in it.
Namna gani unayoonja?
They know everything they need to know to survive. There's been famine in certain spots, and the Hadza are living like there's no problem. There's been terrible drought, where all the cattle's finished, all the crops are finished, and you find a Hadza family living like no problem, laughing, singing. So they know how to survive, and the knowledge that's been passed down to them is thousands and thousands of years old. I mean, a lot of times you see them wearing modern shirts, maybe some jewelry and stuff, but that's just the veneer, that's just the surface. Their culture still is intact, pretty much. I mean, they're still hardcore hunter-gatherers, but it's very fragile. It's very fragile. It could all crumble away quickly. There's a communication that occurs between hunters. You just learn to read their body language, and then there's sort of an unspoken communication. Like when there's just things get really quiet when there's an animal around.
Day 23. The journey's almost over and the strain's beginning to tell.
Last night I jumped over a fire and I hurt my knee. It's slowing down the safari a little bit, I think, but I can limp okay. And now we've run out of tobacco and cigarettes, we've run out of coffee and tea, we've run out of rice, we've run pretty much out of food in our supplies. So we're gonna have a hard, slow walk the rest of the way. We're 2 days away from the inn and I can't wait.
Day 25.
Yeah, Adam has tried to wake us up smoking some bongi.
Local marijuana. They've walked almost 300 kilometers, and all that stands between them and Mangola, journey's end, are the hills of Gilgwa.
We've now arrived on the outskirts of Mangola. It's been 26 days since we left Mangola, and we have completed our journey almost. We're close to the Chim Chim waters. Once we arrive in the Chim Chim waters, we have completed our journey.
But first, a well-earned drink in a local bar.
They were saying that when we set off on the safari to go around this other side of the lake, they said they were nervous. They weren't sure what was going to happen because they had never been to some of these spots. And they had heard about these Jimbazis. Lots of people have been killed in that area. He says there's lots and lots of poachers. And the poachers come across guests like we were. They're saying that, they're also saying that we had good luck.
And so, on to the Chim Chim.
You receive so much, and I really don't know if I have a whole lot to give. But when I'm here, I'm at my best. And I think only when you're at your best, you share in the human spirit. So I share my laughter, I share my passion, I share my joy as they share that with me. I often look at Africa as a mother, and the mother has that unconditional love, so she'll always give you something. She's just helping you grow to be the best you can be. Sisi matoto ya Mungu watu yote. Everyone is brothers and sisters.
Baba alisema vijana wa Tanzania, vijana wa mbingu, vijana wa mbingu, nikitenda ligonga. Baba likasirika, Baba likasirika. Baba alisema vijana wa Tanzania, vijana wa mbio.